What is up, Spa City? Welcome to the Specific Chiropractic Center's podcast, the Spa City Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Grant Dennis, featuring all of the community leaders and people doing big things for the community of Hot Springs. Look forward to seeing you guys on the inside. Welcome back in, guys, for another episode of the Spa City Podcast, the hottest seat in Spa City, where we bring in all the leading community experts, people doing really amazing things for the community of Hot Springs. And this week, I have an extra special guest. When I think of connections and I think of connectors, and I think about people who are connected in the community of Hot Springs, there's nobody better when I think about the word connection than Miss Mary Metcalf. Because listen, there's so many people that you come across in the city of Hot Springs who, when you first meet them, you just think, man, this person just knows everybody. Mary is one of those people. Mary, I appreciate you joining us this
Absolutely,
episode
I appreciate
today.
you asking me.
You know, I know that the community of Hot Springs is one that you're relatively new to. I know that in the last 2.5 years, you and Tim both have lived here. And I know that the story is unique. And we're going to get to Stroll Magazine, your initiative there a little bit and a little bit later. But what I want to talk about is kind of your unique story on how Hot Springs literally found you and you found Hot Springs. And can you give us a little bit of insight into you and how you and your husband Tim met?
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned Stroll, which is a local magazine. So I was actually doing 2 of these local magazines in Pennsylvania. COVID hit, everybody remembers that day. But my husband had passed away a couple years before that. So, I was definitely alone, but I had a friend, co-worker / friend, who was a coach with our company. We do work under the umbrella of a company called the N2 Company. And she texted me and she said, hey, I'm coaching this guy in Arkansas and he's really lonely. Would you consider just, talking with him if I connected you guys by text? And I'm like, sure, whatever, Yeah. And we joke now, and I said, I really thought he was a 30-year-old living in his mother's basement that wanted to talk video games or something. But
Right.
Anyways, anybody that knows Tim knows he's a jokester. He had me laughing from the first text, and as they say, the rest of the story is history because we just hit it off. We talked back and forth for months. I finally came here in September to actually meet him to see if this was really something. And we met in September. We were married the following February. So I moved here to Hot Springs at that time.
Isn't it so interesting how just one text can sometimes completely shift the trajectory of your life by somebody just saying, hey,
connecting.
Yeah. I was speaking of connecting. I mean, it's really interesting, and I love that story. And I always like to start with people's origin stories and kind of how they ended up in Hot Springs and that sort of thing. And of course, yours is surrounded by meeting the love of your life. And then here we sit today. What's been, I always say one of my favorite things about Hot Springs is the feeling I get when I'm in Hot Springs. I feel like there's just a vibe. I tell people there's just a vibe to Hot Springs. I don't know if it's the old, gangster vibes back in the day, or if it's the tourist vibes, or I'm not sure what it are, the mountains or the lakes or what it is, but there's just a vibe to Hot Springs. What is it about Hot Springs that you just really love? What is maybe one of the things you like the most about Hot Springs, or that you've really learned to appreciate living here?
Well, from day one, I love the fact that everybody is so friendly. The town I lived in Pennsylvania was a small town, not unlike Hot Springs. But I hate to say this, but it just wasn't as welcoming. It was, if you weren't born and raised there, you were them.
Right,
you weren't
right.
one of the good old boys. But Hot Springs is not like that. You're welcomed in. People love you. So, and I think that's it. I mean, obviously we have gorgeous scenery. I love the lakes, love the mountains, love the combination of the two. But you can have that in a place, and if the people are not friendly, it's not going to matter. It's not going to feel like home. So right away, I felt like this was home when I moved here.
Yeah, so when you originally moved here, and obviously moving to a new place can be kind of intimidating, maybe even
Absolutely,
potentially a
yeah.
little scary, especially coming from what you had mentioned and coming from Pennsylvania. Now, did you live in Pennsylvania your whole life prior to that?
No,
or?
I lived in Florida most of my life, actually. Never liked it. I know, a lot of people think, what, are you crazy? I'm like, yeah, but you were on vacation on the beach. There's a difference,
Right.
But I just didn't like the fact that it was too hot, too humid, too buggy, too flat, no seasons, all that stuff. So when I moved to Pennsylvania, and I lived there about 14 years, fell in love with Pennsylvania, loved it, loved the change of seasons and whatnot. So, and it's kind of funny, and I hate to admit this, but when I found out Tim was from Arkansas, I actually had to look it up on a map. I wasn't sure exactly where it was. So, but when I moved here, one of the things I loved about it was the fact that we have the scenery that was similar to Pennsylvania, the mountains, the trees, and the lakes, the water. Yes, it gets hot, but it's still not Florida hot. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And then especially this time of year when
Yeah.
we're starting to transition from summer into the fall weather. I just was telling
Exactly.
somebody this morning, this is my favorite time of year. It's just amazing, especially in the state of Arkansas, the natural state where you get
Yeah.
all 4 seasons, but essentially these transition of seasons is one of my favorite. Now, I know that you're involved with multiple things here in the community, which is one of the things I love about you is you're involved in the community. And, obviously one of my intents here on this podcast is to feature people who are doing really important things for our community. And I know that Literacy Arkansas, or Literacy Hot Springs specifically, the Literacy Council
Literacy
is
Council of Garland County.
Garland County is one of those. Can you talk a little bit about that initiative and why you're passionate about it and kind of what it does here for the community?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great organization. They're actually getting ready to expand and include other counties as well, but they do a phenomenal job. And there's so many people that either cannot read at all, and these are adults that either cannot read, it might be a language issue, they've moved here from somewhere else, so that might be part of it, or they just haven't learned to read, which is sad, but it happens. But there's so many people that either their life can be improved. We have stories of people being able to get a driver's license because now they can read. They got a better job because they were able to fill out the application or whatever. There's just so many success stories. So when you actually think about it, going through life not being able to read would be terrible. So just near and dear to my heart. Sarah Richardson is director of that. She does a phenomenal job and just really, really has a heart for these adults. So
I don't even think most people, I learn something new every time I do one of these podcasts, and I think most people wouldn't even actually believe that there's that many folks out there who are illiterate in that way.
That's
and
correct.
So when it comes to these classes, this is just essentially teaching them how to read, how to write, how to essentially apply for job applications and that kind of thing.
Correct, yeah. I'm actually working with a lady, sweet lady, that went through 12 years of school and just they pushed her through because she had some kind of disabilities, so to speak, and so she graduated, but is really having struggle reading. So we've kind of determined she's probably dyslexic, so we're going back to the beginning and starting and treating that.
Wow.
So very, very rewarding.
Yeah, I can imagine. When you help somebody go through something like that, just we all get fulfilled in different ways, but I know we kind of are cut from the same cloth in that way, that we're fulfilled by making an impact on somebody.
Right.
And I love that. And I also know that Habitat for Humanity here locally and the Women's Build is something also you're heavily involved in, that you're passionate about. What's kind of that initiative?
Yeah, so I've loved Habitat for Humanity, for years. They have people that work to get a home. They don't get it for free. They do get a reduced mortgage, but they have to put in sweat equity too. So I love that, that concept of it. So when I moved here and actually volunteered at Heels to Hammers is what it was called before. Now it's called the Women's Build. So what this is a week or 2 weeks out of the year, and it's a fundraiser, but it's also a lot of fun. Women go and they, actually do the work. You're actually hammering, nailing, whatever, is needed at that time. But you pay to do so. So you are actually contributing to the cause as well. Great cause. You mentioned the magazine. I didn't have done articles on them in the magazine as well, but yeah, it's just also very fulfilling when you're helping somebody to be able to get into a home. Last year I actually did an article on the build, but we also continued it with a home for the holidays. So one of the ladies, a single mom that had gotten a home the year before, I asked her just to give me a little bit of, what it meant to her, and she wrote this gorgeous article. And it brought tears to all of our eyes about what it really meant and how her little girl, her 3-year-old little girl, when she would pull down the road, she goes, "Oh, we're going to our house," was just so excited. So, that's another way, you can change people's lives.
My goodness. I know that one of the things that, first off, Heels to Hammers, I love that name.
Yeah.
That's a crazy cool name. I've never heard that before. And then, when you talk about, one of the things that Hot Springs, it seems, is a lot of people are moving to Hot Springs. And because of that, we're running into this issue of there's not enough housing, and even more so, not enough affordable housing. And so one of the things that, we were talking to Bill Burrow about on a previous episode was how the city is aiming to provide some more affordable housing. I would imagine Habitat's going to be involved somewhat with that initiative, which is really cool to see. But I know that one of your really big passions is Stroll Magazine. I know that Stroll Magazine, speaking of connecting, is a way for businesses to connect with their particular communities, and in your particular instance, it's the Lakeside community.
Correct.
And so, can you talk a little bit about, how I know you were involved with Stroll, even in Pennsylvania, and then into the Hot Springs community. what was it that brought you to Stroll? About your passion for Stroll? Why you like that particular magazine? Like, what is it what was it about it that was like, that's what I want to do?
Well, when I started in Pennsylvania and I first found out about it, I just thought it was the neatest concept ever. It is a magazine all about the residents of these different communities. So, you get to find out about your neighbor and whatnot. And so here, and Tim had started the one we have here 7 years ago. We've been out for 7 years, and it goes to 9 communities right around the Hot Springs Country Club. But like I said, the stories are all about the residents. So they're, stories about their kids and pets and events and, whatever they're doing. But I love some of the feedback I get. So we've had all kinds of comments from people that learn about their neighbors through this. But I got to tell you, my favorite one ever was a veteran. We had featured a veteran and his wife on the cover last November. And after the magazine came out, he called me just all excited. And I'm like, what? He said, this guy showed up at my door with his copy of the magazine because he lives like 10 minutes from me. But he recognized me because we were childhood friends and college roommates in Chicago.
Wow.
And I'm like, wow. And he said, I don't know how we lost track of each other over the years, but we did. But, thank you so much for bringing us back together.
So through the magazine, these guys were able to reconnect.
Right.
Wow, that's very cool. I think most people, one of the things that they don't realize when it comes to Stroll is and what makes it unique, and is that very fact is it's very much around the residents.
Exactly.
Which really then lends to the trust factor of knowing that what's in this magazine is truly about my residents around me, and potentially even me. But it's a very small, intimate, local, community-driven type of initiative, which I really think is unique. Now, as far as in the Lakeside community here, you mentioned that it goes out to all of the Hot Springs Country Club area there, and then the Lakeside community itself. Is there anything, as you've started to kind of issue this magazine over the last 2.5 years here locally, is there anything you've maybe learned you could share with our audience, or maybe anything that, obviously this story here of those guys connecting, but is there anything else maybe that just as you've started to work in this community that you maybe learned about the community?
Well, I have learned that these are really great people. I mean, they're, and people say that, but they really are. They're so welcoming. And, I feel like I said before, they welcome me right away as family.
Right.
I mean, Tim had started the magazine, and then he actually became a realtor right before we got married. So now he's, works mostly in the real estate field. And then I took over the 2 magazines. We have another local one too. But I kind of worried, are they going to say, oh, well, that's Tim's and they don't want to talk to me? But absolutely not. They really welcome me in. And that is just one story I have of bringing people together. I had another gentleman that told me we had done a story on their next door neighbor, and she was a bowling champion. And he goes, we've known them for years. I didn't even know she liked to bowl. So,
right.
So I love that part.
Yeah, and I know that Tim also is very involved with the community with several different things, whether it be Rotary or real estate, a lot of other community-driven things. And I know First Choice Realty is kind of where is his avenue or vehicle to helping people with real estate. I'm imagining if you're anything like my wife and I, when he's dealing with something as far as real estate goes with new home buyers in the city, you're able to help tremendously, just kind of help facilitate and connect them with maybe needs. What would you say, like a first person, someone moving into Hot Springs, having been one yourself? Maybe one of the things you didn't realize when you first walked into Hot Springs, maybe as someone who's buying a home for the first time in Hot Springs, maybe what's one of the first things that you would want to maybe highlight for Hot Springs as being a real draw to Hot Springs?
Well, I think one thing that came to mind is that, I hear people like, oh, they don't want to go downtown. And I think that is just a shame, because downtown has got so much rich, obviously, history.
Yeah.
But there's great things to do, and yes, it's touristy. But we say, and I mean, we did this obviously when I first moved here. But you need to act like a tourist in your own town.
Right.
We have some great things to see. Like I said, the scenery, but the venues and whatnot. Support local businesses, support those downtown businesses, and get out and act like a tourist in your own town.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I've been quoted on the show several times for saying that, because I think it's one of the things that's unique about Hot Springs is you get that ability.
Right.
What is, if you and Tim are, just out and about throughout the town, you say, hey, we're going to go on a Friday night and peruse around downtown. What's maybe some of you guys' favorite spots to stop in at? Your favorite stuff? Maybe you guys frequent somewhere. Are you one of those kind that like every Friday we go to this place? Or you guys mix it up a little bit?
We do. We are those people. We actually live off Airport Road, so we go to every Tuesday and Sunday. We go to Lost Creek Grill for dinner and have dinner with friends. But as far as downtown, the Arlington, we love going listening to music at the Arlington. we're older, so one thing we like about it is they start early, but, it's just...
The Arlington restaurant, like
Arlington
the hotel area.
Hotel, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And the restaurant. We've been to the restaurant as well, too, so it's great. But, there's just a lot of places like that. But, yeah, and you also get to people watch, which is another one of our favorite things to do.
It's a very fun thing to do downtown,
right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's, and I know that they're renovating the Arlington right now. I was
yeah.
walking around downtown with some friends probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I was telling them about the Arlington and how rich in history it is,
Absolutely.
and they got to keep it up, and it's a historical district. Of course, then we went into the whole hot springs story of, the story of the hot springs and what drew people here originally. But if there was, when it comes to people who move in, to like this particular area with Stroll Magazine, the people who move into the community get Stroll Magazine if they're in a particular area, or is this something they opt into, or how does that what's the dynamic there?
Right, so if they live in one of those 9 communities around the country club, they automatically get it in the mail. Now, our other publication we have is called Be Local, Garland County.
Yep.
So it is specific for people that move to the area.
Okay, gotcha.
So it is more of a resource for where to take your dogs. We did surveys to find out where the local shop and eat and all that stuff, list of museums, and it's just a gorgeous publication, but it is a really good resource when somebody moves to the area. So when they purchase a new home or a home, not new, when they purchase a home in Garland County, they will get a copy of this in the mail. So that's what our other publication is.
Yeah, and so Be Local essentially is really for, now how many of those would you say, it's one of the things I'm most interested in is always how many people are moving to Hot Springs, because it would seem there's quite a bit, and we kind of touched on that a minute ago, but I mean, how are you guys able to track that? How to Be Local as far as that? Like, how are you able to know when someone comes in? Is that something they raise their hand for, or?
Well, thank goodness our parent company does that. I don't have to worry about that.
Gotcha.
So they do. It's basically based on when they sign the deed. So.
Gotcha.
So
okay.
yes.
Able to kind of tag them as a new move-in.
Exactly. But I can tell you from my husband being a realtor that most of the homes he sells here are from people moving here from a different state. A lot of times it's somebody came here when they were a child and vacationed here or whatever and just fell in love with the place, and they're tired of California or Texas or wherever it is,
right.
And they end up moving here. He did have one client recently that had never been to Hot Springs and was living in Arizona and researched it and said it has everything we want to offer, and now he's living here happily. So.
Yeah, gotcha. So do you think this is kind of home for you and Tim for the long haul, or do you think kind of this is a stop here for the next couple of years, and or do you think this is kind of that we found our home?
No, I think we found our home. Tim's been here about 8 years now, so
gotcha.
Yeah, definitely feel vested in the community. And you mentioned we're both part of Rotary, both part of the chamber, so we do feel like we're part of the business community for sure, and others as well. And
Gotcha. Yeah, and I know also one thing that's unique that you guys do that I really love. I wasn't able to make the last one. I was bummed. I was out of town. But I know one thing you guys do too is you're really big with connecting local business owners to people of the community.
Correct.
I think that's one thing that any good business, no matter what it is, it's built off trust and credibility, and knowing that I have a relationship with this person.
Right.
It's one thing I think you guys do that's unique is connecting business owners who are I don't want to say small mom and pops, but they're local owned.
Right.
It's someone from this community that's doing something for the community.
Correct.
In this world of corporations and franchise and people that open businesses that are ran remotely from somewhere else, I think that one of the things that's unique about Hot Springs that I love is there's a lot of businesses that are locally homegrown people that they're from here and they want to contribute to their communities.
Right.
I know you guys typically do these fairs where businesses are able to expose themselves to Can you talk a little bit about how that's all set up and how you guys are able to do that?
Yeah, so we also, with our magazine, and you mentioned our business partners, so we do, we kind of interview everybody that goes in there. We are protective over our residents.
Rightly so, yeah.
Right, so we do want to make sure we're getting good businesses in there that we would feel comfortable recommending. But one of the things they get in their package they get the print ad, obviously. We also do digital display ads are included with that. But then periodically throughout the year, we will do events. Now, the one you mentioned we just did was a business type expo. That's not our typical one, to be honest with you, but I loved it. It was a chance for a lot of my business partners to set up displays. We did it at Levi Hospital, so we got a tour of Levi Hospital. Obviously, residents were there as well. We always have free food and wine, and I tell a corny joke or two, so they're just fun. We have tons of giveaways. But this one was great because it actually gave each business a chance to really talk to the residents and explain what they do. They all had great giveaways and samples and stuff, so it was a really good event. Other than that, we do, for example, my next one I've got coming up is a pet costume contest.
Yeah,
so,
I saw that today, yeah.
So that's going to be a lot of fun. We do that at 420 Eats, so another local, one of my business partners, but another local venue here that has food court type area.
Yeah, I want to touch on that for a second because I don't know that many people know about 420 Eats, and it's super great.
It
but
is.
Can you talk a little bit about 420 Eats
Yeah.
and kind of, it's such a cool concept that I'm not even sure people in Hot Springs knows even there or know what it is, or just having had a unique relationship with them. What is 420 Eats?
It is basically they call it a food court, but it is an open area that's got picnic tables, covered area, a stage, so they have live music, but it has food court set up. So it's great. You can go there with the whole family. Everybody gets to choose what they want from the different food court. Like I said, they have live music, usually on the weekends, and then there's a bar behind, so they do have beer and wine type drinks, as well, so adult beverages. But it's just, you're out under the stars, there's lights, they've got games that you can play on the side.
And where is it?
It is on, it's 420 Melbourne?
Yeah.
420 Melbourne.
Yeah.
So it's basically kind of across from the Hot Springs Hotel, just a little bit up from there. Kind of sits down in a little bit of a, valley there, so you're right, a lot of people can drive by there and never even really pay attention to what it is. But yeah, great venue, great relaxed venue, great place to get the kids and pets. So
yeah, it's almost got kind of a Austin, Texas vibe. Austin, Texas is known for their they're known for their food trucks. That's like I frequented there several times, and of course the theme for Austin is Keep Austin Weird, and the show is definitely not about Austin. But one of the things I've noticed in Austin is food trucks are a very big thing. So when I go by there, and I've actually been there before, it's almost got kind of a little Austin-y vibe with people with their dogs, people outside with their kids, hanging out, sitting by the food trucks. And I mean, let's be honest, I think, sometimes the best food you can get is out of a food truck, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And so, and speaking of food, I mean, I'm a foodie, so I love asking about Hot Springs food. If you and Tim, budget aside, we're like, hey, we're going to go out on a Friday and just splurge. Like, what's one of you guys' favorite go-to places? Like, this is where we're going.
There's a few in town. So the Vault, obviously, is one of the better known ones, and we love going there. And the Heist upstairs that they have, which is relatively new, a little bar. It's a nice area. J&S Italian Restaurant is also one of our favorites that's been taken over by actually two of my residents, Jeannie and Sadiq Muir. And they've done a great job with that. They also bought the Copper Penny downtown and the Ohio Club. So that's a great
kind of taken over the
too.
little downtown core there, I've noticed there,
Right, and the Ohio Club's always been one of our favorites. So that's kind of it. Like I said, we have Lost Creek Grill, which is up off Airport Road, it's a little hole in the wall, but it was actually voted best steak in the state by Yelp. So, and they're right, it is. It's
really? I learned something new.
It is amazing. So we go there at least twice a week, sometimes more. So.
Gotcha. Well, you're so connected in the community. You do so much for our community, and a lot of this is volunteer based. And I think that's one thing that when I look at bringing guests on, it's people who are doing things for the community, and potentially sometimes even on a volunteer basis. If somebody wanted to get involved with you when it comes to Literacy Council, or they wanted to get involved with what was previously Heels and Hammers, that's now Women's Build, if they wanted to get involved with something like that, what's like the, maybe it's for the ladies out there who are like, hey, how do I get involved with something like that? What is that? How can they do that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, obviously anybody can reach out to me and I can, put them in the right connection. But Habitat for Humanity actually is over Women's Build. So you just go to their website and you can find out about how to sign up for that. That one is coming up in October here, and usually it's the beginning of every month in October, and I will tell you it fills up fast. So you need to register early to be able to be a part of that. The Literacy Council, same thing. Just go to the website on there. There's a place on there for volunteering. They do periodic classes to kind of explain what it's all involved and whatnot. They give you training. So yeah, it's a great way to get involved there.
Very cool. So in closing, I want to know the pet costume. I know that in the world of marketing, there's no better way to get a hold of someone's attention than a pet.
Right.
A lot of times. And so, talk to us a little bit about the pet costume that's coming, the contest that's coming up. I'm assuming there's going to be some sort of a contest involved with this. I read through the email. What kind of is, what kind of inspired you guys to do this, and what's kind of what's it going to be like when we show up?
Right. So this is our second annual one. So we did it last year at 420 Eats. I had done tons of events in Pennsylvania, and I had always wanted to do a pet costume contest and didn't. We did a trunk or treat or something instead for Halloween. So Stephen Inman Crawley, who is the owner of Lock Salon and 420 Eats, also a realtor, busy person. But he and I got talking, and I said, hey, would you consider, doing this? He said, absolutely, we would love to do that. We love hosting events. We love animals. So, yeah. So we did it last year. Had some great costumes and some, good winners. And I have business partners that are animal, groomers or whatever. I have Camp Diggity Dog that does great. Been partnering with us for years, and they provided a huge basket as a giveaway. Puppy Love Pet Grooming, another business that partners with me. They also provided one. Your CBD store provided one because they have dog treats that are very great for calming dogs down. And then Hot Springs Animal Hospital was the other one, and they've been a big supporter of ours. So they provided gifts. So we had some really, really good gifts. Arkansas Logo Logic did little bandanas with all the sponsors' logos on them. So everybody went home with a bandana. So yeah, it was just a lot of fun. And we provide the first beer or wine. We give a ticket for that. So anybody that would like one can get that on us. And then obviously food trucks are there for dinner. So
that's such a great idea.
And this year I have one extra thing that we've added to it is Abby's Acres. She has farm animals, friendly farm animals, so she's bringing those out. So we're going to have like a petting zoo, and she might even have her farm animals dressed up as too. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
That's such a good idea, and I love that you guys do events like that. That's got to be one of your funner ones.
It is.
Every year. And is this something you guys look to do every year and kind of keep repeating doing? Yeah.
Absolutely.
So around this time of year, folks can expect to pop out to 420 Eats. In closing too, if for somebody maybe who's listening into us that maybe is new to Hot Springs, obviously. Having done that over the last couple of years, I think, last 2.5 years, I think you have a unique perspective on that. For someone maybe who's new to the community, maybe catching us, on here that's newer, what's a good way for them to get plugged into the community? You mentioned that people are really nice here. They're great, and I'd agree with you for the most part. What is... what is the, you always have one out of every bunch, but where can they go, or what can they do, what resources, where can they go to get plugged into the better part of the community as far as just being able to get plugged in with good folks? Obviously the schools, they have kids and stuff, but if there's like for you, what have you guys kind of found is a good way to kind of tap into that?
Well, I think the first thing is a church, finding a good church home. We kind of shopped around a little bit, but we had watched some online, and then we went to one, visited it, and it was a great church, nothing wrong with it, but we thought, okay, we're going to visit the second one, and we've never left. So I put in a plug for New Life Church, they're our church home. So that's just a great way to get involved and get to meet people in the community. For businesses, the chamber's great. They do different events where you get to meet people and whatnot, so that's good. There's also, Tim's also involved with the Hot Springs Executive Association, so that's another great way to get involved. So there's all kinds of different business. There's also a women's chamber. But in volunteering, every organization, there's so many. One of the things I do in Stroll Magazine is doing a Making a Difference article. So I'll do an article on, a nonprofit, and especially if one of my residents is volunteering there or is connected with it. But there's just so many worthwhile causes. So I would say get plugged in.
Love it. So many different ways. And you mentioned volunteering is one of the greatest things. Well, listen, Mary, I appreciate you taking some time with us today, talking about all the things you're doing for our community. Thank you for all you're doing for the community. And look forward to maybe having you on a future segment again.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate it.
That's going to do it for us today, folks. And appreciate you tuning in. And to keep in mind, get out there and volunteer somewhere in Hot Springs. We've got so many different ways you can get plugged in, so many different things you can volunteer with, and so many things you can do to contribute to the community of Hot Springs and all the things that make it so great. Until next time, we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for joining us this week, guys, on another episode of the Spa City Podcast. And remember to subscribe to everywhere you listen to podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and check us out on social media. And remember to support all of our community members we have on this podcast and everybody who's doing big things in the community of Hot Springs. And until next time, see you.